everybody, welcome to the latest edition of SketchyGOichie. I'm your host, Roger Andrews, artist, illustrator, graphic designer, content creator. And the content I'm creating for you today is essentially my top 9 of your favorite videos of mine during the course of the year for 2019. These videos are basically selected by the ones that got the most likes or the most views and the longest watch times. Basically the ones that I feel like resonated the most with you guys. And so strap on in and enjoy. It's just gonna be a long time lapse. I'm gonna do some new commentary and some new insights, and hopefully you guys will pick up on some little tips and tricks to propel you in your art forward in 2020. All right, enjoy.
SketchyGOichie.
Hey everybody, welcome to 2020. So for 2020, I'm going to do my 9 through 1 top videos of last year. I can say last year now, it's wild. 2019, and I'm going to start with number 9. This little tiny piece of art done for Captain America. It's basically to show, my style, and it was done very, very early in this video series, this YouTube channel, the SketchyGOichie YouTube channel, and it's really just to demonstrate how I render, and it's pretty amazing that this video is actually one of my highest rated videos. It's maybe within the first couple that I ever put together for the channel. And it's just a style exploration. It's just how I render, my technique, and you guys liked it, so it's in the top 9. All right, number 8. This one it's amazing to me. It's very highly rated too. It's just a little freestyle sketch. It's done in what I call the real world, which it is. Obviously, it's me with webcam and just looking down on a blank sheet of paper and sketching. I threw a little music on, so that's why you kind of see that. You can see my iPhone in the corner there. And I just was, again, I was new to the channel, new to YouTube in general, and it was just me trying to get a feel for, what content would work best on this channel. But technique-wise, what's good about seeing this is, obviously, like most artists, I've spent my entire life working traditionally. So for me, this is probably a better example of how I've worked and have worked for many, many years leading up to kind of this digital revolution, particularly on the iPad. And I should mention now, when you do see me rendering on the iPad, I'm using essentially the first iPad Pro, the first generation. And the app, of course, I'm using is Procreate. But in this case, it's just literally a China marker, sort of a black, wax pencil, and I don't even remember what size pad this was. It's a decent sized pad. It's probably like an 11 by 14 pad of paper. Traditional, I think it was just Bristol paper, as a matter of fact, drawing pad, and that's materials I use for that. And again, the whole point is, and this, it's funny, the technique that I'm using on here is the exact same technique I use digitally, which is ironic. So the point of this whole exercise is that the medium doesn't matter, it's the artist. I think a lot of us, myself included, get wrapped up in the, what medium are you working with, what brush are you using, what material are you working with. The bottom line is it really is all about the artist and how much time and energy you put into developing your own personal technique, and what style emerges when you put those hours in. It's really what it's all about, and it's kind of what I try to do with this channel. I know this is number 8 and I'm getting deep down into the philosophy. I've got time. I've got 7 through 1 to get into more details about philosophy and stuff, but diving right in, I think it's, to be honest with you, when you're doing art when you do as much art as I do, the reality is it's all about, what inspires you, of course. I mean, it's crucial. Whatever inspires you is obviously what you're gonna derive the most fun rendering. That's step one and step A. But step B is just, is the just do it factor of the Nike just do it factor. I had one of my videos, and I think it might have made the top 10. I think it's the, if I'm not mistaken, it's the one, it might be number 2 or number 1, so stay tuned, a little teaser. And I really discussed that. It's, it's about, not being afraid and just really just doing it. In this case, a blank sheet of paper and a China marker was all I needed to just to sketch. And the sketch does not have to be perfect. I think, particularly when because there's so much great art out there, and there's so many things to be inspired by and other artists to be inspired by, we think that when we sketch stuff, it has to be perfect. All the proportions have to be right, and all the line work and the shading, and we get so hung up on that. And I'm looking at this thing now with fresh eyes, and it's not perfect, and things are misaligned, and the proportions are off. But what is in there, though, is the energy. It's the intent is there, and I know that worst case scenario, it's just one sheet of paper. I can just go back in and just redraw it. It's even easier when you work in Procreate on the iPad. You can just undo stuff. So there really is no reason to not, if you love to not draw as much as possible. It is now, especially working digitally, but when you're working traditionally, I mean, there is no limitation to the amount of time that you can place on any given piece. All right, and it doesn't have to be precious. And speaking of not precious, here's number 7. This drawing was done, I can say it now, it was drawn to basically do kind of like a tribute t-shirt or a wearable piece of art. And what was fun about this particular project was that it gave me a chance to kind of show the audience how I work in layers, how I build up I guess the point is every background element I render completely, and meaning, like, for instance, that first part of this piece was the Batman, and I rendered him essentially pretty complete, even though he was going to be tucked behind the barber's chair and behind Joker there in the foreground, and even behind, I believe he's behind the bat symbol in the background. So this was a good chance for me to show the audience, like, render in layers. It gives you the ability to be able to edit things much more easily in the future. By that I mean, like, if I wanted to shift Batman over to the left or right, I have enough material to work with because I rendered his whole head. I didn't just stop where his face is tucked behind the Joker's sort of that little bald spot up in the upper left. And this is a good example of playing around with style, playing around with technique, because this is done digitally and everything is layered. I was able to play around with a bunch of different techniques. If you notice, there was some halftone dots that I was shading with. There's now I've sort of rendered it a bit more in my normal style, where I kind of block in all the colors flat, and then on additional layers, I start adding the shading and the highlighting and all that stuff in. This was a good example of just, what I call, and what everyone calls, workflow. This is me playing with how it would look monochromatically. And I think ultimately this is how it wound up on the t-shirt. And this is, a perfect example of, I think the gist of the original piece was about, again, something that would look nice on a t-shirt, but ultimately it's all about composition. And I get into that big time down the road in one of the other videos. Speaking of other videos, here is number 6 of 2019. This one was a really fun one. It was me demonstrating how to to basically do character design. I'm working on this little dog sketch, and big shout out to Erin Heartbreak. You can check her out on YouTube and on Instagram, and so she was so generous. She met with myself and my buddy Jeff, and Jeff has a marketing company here in New Bedford, Massachusetts called Spectrum Marketing. And I'm not sure if he had done some work with Erin, working on her marketing, because I get the impression she's also heavily into marketing and certainly a great self-promoter for her YouTube channel and her Instagram and whatever other social media thing she has. But Jeff, also generous with his time. We had a lunch, and she broke down for me like YouTube. She demystified it for me, and so just in meeting her and just getting a sense of her hustle and everything, and talking to her as a person, she really what came through is her love of her dog. She's one of those people just they love their dog, and so she shared with me some photos. That's also part of that video. So if you go back and anyone who's seen the video knows, I spent a good portion of it doing a character design of her dog, trying to render it in a cartoon way. I thought it would be kind of a clever thing to do, and I didn't do this so much as a gift for her, so much as more like just kind of a thank you thing. I wanted to have I want to do exactly what she suggested and have content for the video. I wanted you guys to have something to watch. But B, I thought it'd be, I could draw anything in the world. Why not draw something like, hopefully that she thought was cool and that she knows is a tribute to her and a thank you to her, taking the time out to kind of chit chat with me and give me the breakdown of YouTube and how it works. So I drew her dog and one of her favorite things. So this was me sort of giving folks a sense of my process. And the process a lot of artists use, particularly in character design, is, you go at it with volume. You do more than one sketch. This is crucial to you guys who are character designers or who love to render your own original characters. You can't stop it. You can't just open up your sketchbook or open up a blank document on Procreate or any other app, do one sketch and think, oh, I've got the character, I'm done. You cannot do that. You've got to put your time in. You've got to draw variations. You've got to draw, that character in different proportions, change the features, change the, every aspect of it to, be creative. Being creative doesn't mean you do one image and you're done. To me, this is the most fun part of the process of being creative. Drawing many images and basically distilling it down to, the best possible image. And of course, it's subjective what the best image is in the end. It may require, sharing it with other people and maybe doing something similar to this, doing your top 9 images and, putting them on social media, put them on Instagram and have people, respond. Which brings me to another point, responses. In 2019, I don't even know how many videos. It was like 70 videos or so for this channel. At one point I was doing, 2 and 3 a week. And one of the things that was the most rewarding about it, because be honest with you, I'm a new YouTuber, so I don't have a lot of followers, but every single one that I have that I and will have in the future, I appreciate. And what I especially appreciate is when you guys make comments. The likes are great and the views are wonderful, and especially the subscribing. I'm so impressed that people, go on and click subscribe, and the ones that, whenever a new video pops up, you can tell that, people are watching them because they've selected the notification icon. But the biggest thing is the comments. When somebody, because I, like most artists, I work alone. For the most part, obviously I have collaborators, but I work alone. So the feedback is wonderful when somebody says, yeah, hey, I like that piece. Yeah, I like that certain aspect of your commentary. Oh, I didn't see that you could render in that way. Oh, thank you for, a comment saying thank you for, you know, pointing that particular aspect of the drawing out. And what that does is it bolsters me, and it makes me, it inspires me to want to do more videos. And because I can see, even if it's only one person, I can see that person is getting something out of this. You know, it's like, what's the point of doing how-to videos, particularly on drawing, if no one's getting anything out of it? You know, I'll be honest with you, I'm super fortunate to be able to do what I do for a living. The fact that I get to illustrate and draw characters, especially these little doggy characters, you know, even if I was just doing them for fun, it's a great thing. And the fact that I get to share it with people is so wonderful. And even more wonderful than that is that people actually A, enjoy it, and B, actually get something out of it. You know, get something out of the instruction. Speaking of instruction, you can see here too, I have a whole host of videos, and none of them really made the top 9. Oh, by the way, the criteria for the top 9 is the most views. That was the ultimate criteria that I landed on. So I selected the videos that had the most number of views in 2019. I'm hoping that some people who are new to this channel will kind of go back and watch some of the older ones. And if nothing else, I mean, maybe the commentary is a little more refined in the newer ones, particularly in the How Not to Suck at Art series that I put together in the last, month or so, and started uploading that series. I know those are getting some of the larger views. But some of the earlier ones I think are pretty cool because they're sort of me kind of fumbling my way through the process. But I think some of the artwork on them is engaging, and I think timely for 2019. Like, I did a Pennywise piece earlier in the year that people really loved on Facebook and Instagram. I did one for it was initially done for Avengers Infinity War, but I think I posted it right around the time of Avengers Endgame. So that one, it got a fair amount of views, not enough to make the top 9 because you guys selected these videos, but I think those are interesting to go back in and watch. So anyone new to the channel, please do click subscribe. It helps. I'd love to have somewhere down the road, other artists I admire who are YouTubers, have thousands and thousands and thousands of people who are watching. I'd be so gratified knowing that I would have a really large audience of people to share all these videos with, and hopefully you'll pick up on my philosophy. And I think instruction is obviously a huge part of everything I'm gonna post for you guys, the how-to part of it, but hopefully the philosophy comes through. I think, to me, you can find other channels that have really great how-to, like step-by-step ways of working with the app, and I'm going to provide that for you as well. But I think, to me, the deeper part of it is the philosophy of it, the ins and outs, the thought process behind doing things. All right, speaking of further thought process, there is number 5. This is a SpiderMan piece. I literally did this right around when Far From Home came out. I'm going to attempt to make some of these sketches that I share here on the SketchyGOichie channel timely, whereas if I have the time to do it. But what's cool about this one is the early part of the video is about my sketch process, the feeling out of the character and feeling out of the piece in multiple sketches. It's what I mentioned a few minutes ago about doing many, not just settling on the one and making that the image. So if you can see here, it's me quickly just scratching out different versions of Spider-Man from Far From Home. Here's the thing. It's not that what I'm doing here is not special. It's something that just about every video game studio or design firm or Hasbro is one of my main clients, because obviously I do a lot of toy and game art. I'm sure all of the other artists who either are vendors of Hasbro or in-house designers do multiple versions of the toys or the game sets or the play sets or the vehicles. They do multiple versions, and then they present that to others to see if what is the best possible version of this particular SpiderMan piece, or anything that anyone else is working on. So that was why I included that aspect in this particular video. So if you go back and watch it, I get into each and every one of these little images. I kind of spend a little second or two on each before I dive into the more detailed render of the one I finally selected to make a tighter line drawing and a tighter color render of. But as you can see, it's just like getting a feel for, all right, what's the pose gonna be? And for me, if I'm gonna do Spider-Man, obviously I want to make it the most dynamic pose possible, and I also was trying to figure out which style I thought would work best. So you can see here I'm playing around with the different head sizes and different body sizes and the different posing, and I think this Ultimate was the one I chose. I wanted to really capture sort of like an insect-like pose, if that makes any sense, which hopefully it does for Spider character. And I was just recently watching the documentary on the life of Stan Lee, and how he had mentioned when he pitched doing Spider-Man way back in the 60s, the editor at the time said, nobody likes spiders. Why would you want to do a character based on a spider? But obviously Stan and Steve Ditko, in their infinite wisdom, created a character that was so indelible, and it proved to me and everyone else in the world that if you're creative and you've got an idea, stand by that. Fight for it. Because just because something is popular in the moment doesn't necessarily mean the thing that you invent or you create won't be popular as well, or greater than, even in some ways. So but what was good at this video at this point was me just sort of showing the audience, again, render style, and I get into it in depth, all the aspects of this particular piece and how it was color rendered. And so you'll get to see the sketch, the color, the shading, even the little background spider icon that I threw back there just to create some depth. All right, so moving on to number 4. All right, we're getting down to the crunch time, to the bottom of or should I say the top of the list, all right, of videos from 2019. Oh, by the way, I picked 9 because I've noticed that's a hot thing on Instagram, your top 9 images or collection of images. I'm not sure why it's done. I didn't research it. Sorry, I very rarely don't research it. As a matter of fact, whenever I do these video commentaries, I pretty much do them in one take. Not because I don't care, and not because I don't want to put the time in. I do have limited time though. However, it's about flow and about capturing things in the moment. And to be honest with you, I don't really care why people do the top, do it 9 instead of 10. The way I see it is I'll do these 9 and I'll figure I owe you one. I owe you a 10th one. So that's how I see it, and I don't know if that's the case. But this was one of the very early how to not suck at drawing, or should I say how to not suck at art series that I created here for the YouTube channel. So you can definitely go back and watch this one if you haven't already, and a couple of the newer ones. And this one is almost purely my take on art. And the reason, I've said it in the other videos in the series, the reason I say how to not suck at art is I get that comment all the time from mostly students or really young artists, new artists. And they always ask me, well, how do I suck at drawing whatever. It could be hands, feet, faces, full bodies, scenery, whatever it is. I suck at that part. I'm pretty decent at this, but I suck at that. And whenever I hear that, I think to myself, well, what I want to get under the hood. I want to be like a mechanic. I want to be like, well, show me what you mean, and let's figure out a way to get you to the point where you're happy with that, and you don't feel like you're terrible at a certain aspect of art. If you draw and you love to draw, and you're willing to put the time in, and you're willing to sort of be open-minded and be positive, think of things positive about how you render, you will improve. There's literally no way around it. It's the way all artists improve, particularly great ones. They all start at a place where, where they are, you're not happy with it yet. And there are pieces even now there are pieces in this top 9 that I look back on now and that I'm not particularly thrilled with. And to be honest with you, I don't think you want to be 100% thrilled with every single piece of art you lay down. There's an aspect of art that you don't have to be a perfectionist. You don't have to kill yourself with over analysis. However, you do want to sort of be critical, and that's okay. But you don't want to feel like it sucks. So the whole series is about how to avoid it, and it's my takes on it, and it's my approach to, and my approach to seeing your art in a better way. I try to give you some little tips and tricks about how to render maybe more efficiently. I also get into, the P word, philosophy, and how to sort of see the art in a way that will help it, to be more successful in the end. All right. Speaking of successful, this one actually is of the series of this top 9 videos. This number 3 image is actually one of the ones that I was more happy with. I think it was when I actually posted the video, I enjoyed how this one came out. This is a pretty quick sketch that I think looks fairly refined in the end. And this, like the SpiderMan one a few back, it has a series of sketches that lead up to the final version that I select to render with. I was rendering the Captain Marvel character. Again, a timely one. It was right around the early part of the year when Captain Marvel movie came out. And so I rendered her a full figure. I wasn't liking the proportions. And then I thought, well, let me do one that she sort of cropped in. And so as you can see here, there's a super, super loose sketch. Again, this was done in Procreate on the iPad. So the layering was very, very easy to do. So I had a super, super loose underdrawing. I went in and I wisely went in and rendered the lightning, the power effect on a layer on top of that. And then created a layer underneath the, that lightning, that white lightning effect, that energy blast thing of the line art, the black line art. And once I did that, that sort of allowed me to render fully behind the white line, and I could just keep it rolling. So those are the little technique gems that I wanted to, that I share with you in each of these videos. So again, go back and watch the old ones. I think some of them are pretty fun. All right. Oh, we're down to it. Number 2. This one, you can understand why it is, probably some of you are surprised it's not number 1, but here it is, number 2. It's Baby Yoda. It's a Baby Yoda piece. Again, another timely one. Literally, The Mandalorian had just came out on Disney Plus. And then this was right around the time where Baby Yoda was starting to become that phenomenon, that pop culture iconic thing. Phenomenon is the only word I can think of that applies to this character, this Baby Yoda character from the Mandalorian series. And so I had to dive in, and luckily I was in one of the earlier adopters. Now everyone and their cousin's cousin has rendered Baby Yoda in some ways super clever. For me, I just wanted to get a take on the character. So this is where I go into that process of rendering over and over again. And for me, it's fun. And if it's not fun for you, and you only like to render one thing, and you want to be done with it, maybe you want to question your true love of the game here, because the game is all about like getting a feel for it. The character, I never rendered Baby Yoda before, so my idea was to render him in a bunch of different ways and a bunch of different proportions. And as you can see here, I'm changing the head and changing the eyes and changing his little feet and little hands. And some of them I render him in he's got this little floating carrier, like a little carriage that the Mandalorian character sort of, he's like his little sidekick, so he kind of floats around as the Mandalorian's on his little adventures. And here's where I eventually settled on the pose that I ultimately wanted to do the final render on. So again, this is in Procreate, so it's layered. So I just I cut out that that little loose sketch in that series of sketches. I blew it up larger, put it on another layer, and sort of grade it back, and then added a layer on top and just started rendering. And added subsequent layers afterwards. Layers that contain, as you see, the flat color, and layers that contain the shading and the highlights, and even a background layer underneath everything. so that way it can add a little extra flavor. That's it. I mean, not to oversimplify things, especially on a video that is super fast time lapse. That's really all there is to it. If you're willing to put the time in and you're willing to kind of do all the preliminary sketches that lead to what hopefully is the best available, idea that you want to really invest your time into doing the final render on, as I did with this baby Yoda. Number 2, I know you're going to be surprised that it wasn't number 1, as popular as this character turned out to be for the year. But here we are, number 1, the top of the 9 videos that I selected, or should I say you selected, by all your watches and likes during the course of the year. This is Spider-Woman or Spider-Girl, I'm not sure which. She's a young lady. It's the Gwen Stacy character from Into the Spider-Verse. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, I believe is the full proper title. One of my favorite recent animated movies. It might be in my all-time list, which is, I know a lot of people make all-time lists, and I'm sure you guys are going to see a ton of like top 10 and top of the year lists in the next, basically the next few weeks. But this was the top one you guys selected. It's, just me, doing my version of that Spider-Girl or Spider-Woman character, based on the comics, based on the Into the Spider-Verse movie, and just having fun with it. Quick sketch, but done in color. And hopefully you guys got a kick out of all of this. This is my top 9. Be sure you subscribe, and I'm hoping to boost in 2020. Thank you guys. SketchyGOichie, live your moment. Happy sketching, y'all. Happy 2020. Peace.